I'm going to kick off today's live stream right now. We're just going to jump into it because I cut off that beginning part, but we'll jump right into the live stream right now. But I do want to talk about this before we go too much further. But one of the things that you need to know with the algorithms of social media is we train the algorithms of social media. I had somebody that was talking to me the other day and saying, "Oh, I have too many digital photographers showing up in my live or in my feed on Instagram, and I want to see more film on my feed, more film photographers, more film photos, and all stuff like that." So what I said was we train the algorithm to show us what it is that we find interesting. So all the different likes, the algorithm catalogs all of our likes. It catalogs all of the different interactions that we have across platforms. So even from Instagram to Facebook, it's cataloging all these different interactions that we have. So the things that we like on Facebook will also translate over to Instagram. And I would also probably say, I'm not going to go too conspiracy theory on this, but I do think that there's probably some instances where it's kind of listening to the vocal instructions that we're giving throughout the day. I watched a video to where it was a couple sitting down by their table and they're like, okay, we're going to test the algorithm and see if it's actually listening to our words that we're saying throughout the day. They go, we don't have a cat, we've never had a cat, we've never talked about cat food, but we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about cat food for the next, like, they did it over the course of 4 hours. They both worked from home, so they're sitting at their desk, and just throughout the day they would kind of have these planned moments to where they're like, hey, we should really get some cat food today, the cat needs to be fed, and all these different things. And and then all of a sudden they show later on in the evening Instagram, or one of the, it may have been Facebook at that point, but one of the social media platforms started marketing to them different cat food stuff. They're like, we've never seen cat food marketing. They just kind of pulled out something that they'd never seen in the past. But anyways, I say all that to say, not to go on some like weird like flat earth like conspiracy theory, but to say we train the social media platforms to give us what it is that we want. So if Jahan, what's up, buddy? I see you out there. Thanks, buddy. I'm excited to have you in on this conversation. But to kind of wrap up that whole little tangent, if you want to be seeing more of certain people's feeds, go through their feed and just like start liking. Go on a liking like fanatic. Dan Crosley's on. This is like one giant family reunion. Oh, I love this. And Dan, that your icon profile is amazing. This is fantastic. You can take your tinfoil or your aluminum foil hat off now. That's awesome. Anyways, go through, start liking the things, start searching through the hashtags that you want to see more of on your feed, and just go through a liking frenzy and start training Instagram and some of these other social media platforms to feed you the things that you want to see. Just kind of a side tangent. So anyways, Vinny says, I think it might happen right when you set a date, but I can't confirm. Maybe indifferent on mobile. Sure. Let's see here. J Deb Ultra. Thank you. I love getting the pronunciations of you guys' stuff. I finished a 5-hour printing session in the darkroom. Oh, that's fantastic. I thought there was more to it, but yes, that's great. How many prints did you get made? 5 hours. That's a good amount of time in there. What's your rarest camera? I would say it's the Leica M2M. So that M, I don't have it up here, but there's only 275 of them ever made. So, and how many of those are actually still in existence, I'm not sure. But anyways, I want to kick off and just kind of recap what today's topic was all about, and then really dive into today's 2-Minute Tuesday topic. I'm super, super stoked. Actually, before I go much further, I want to thank again Anthony on here. It's Anthony Ogglesby. Oh, buddy, I should have asked you for your pronunciation, and maybe I did the other day when we were on the phone. But Anthony is raw_film_photography over on Instagram, and he was our guest moderator last week. He's our guest moderator this week. Will be for the rest of the month. But Anthony's going to be making sure that our feed is clear of any kind of trollers or anything like that, so we can have a healthy and engaging and joyful conversation about this stuff. But Thank you, Anthony. You guys should go check him out on Instagram. Once again, it's raw_film_ and photography. So thanks again, Anthony. Today's 2 Minute Tuesday topic was all about the idea of you don't need permission to get out there and experiment. I shared the idea of when I started developing, and I got into developing with Ilfasol 3 because it was the one developer that I had on hand here in town. I could go down to the camera shop and pick it up whenever I wanted to. I had people telling me that it wasn't a good developer for pushing film, and I understand the technical aspects of, oh yeah, it was developed to develop slower speed films and all these kind of things, but at the same time it crippled me for the longest time, and I didn't push my film, or if I did, I sent it out to the lab, and I was holding off and restraining myself where I didn't need to be restrained, because once I started pushing in the developer, and then I started seeing how amazing it could be, and then started seeing how far I could go. I shared a photo on there of HP5 push 7 stops. There was a 120 photo, a shot on the Yashica 124G that I had a while back, and just amazing, amazing results. And just really challenging this concept of, there's a lot of I say this and realize I'm not looking to get into some giant debate, although I do really hope that we can have a good discussion about this. But there's a lot of self-proclaimed experts out there, and this is not in particular to anyone. I don't have anybody in my mind when I say this comment, but there's a lot of people out there who have experienced failures in different things, developer and film combos, and camera to film combos, or whatever that might look like. I don't know. Not that anybody's ever had a whatever. But they experience a certain level of failure, and then they go, well, it just can't be done. And then they start telling people it just can't be done. It's just not good for that. And I'm like very guilty of this as well. I had what is the type, or the new 55 R5 monobath, and I've had people ask me about it in the past, and I had terrible, terrible results with it. But at the same time, I know that there can be great, great results with it as well. I've seen fantastic results from it. I personally never got it figured out. And I also personally never wanted to put in the time to get it figured out, because it was too much of a hassle for me, at least. But then I have other people that, if you don't know what a monobath is, it legitimately develops and fixes the film all in one solution. So it develops, stops, fixes, and then by the time you're done with your development cycle, you're done with the whole cycle. You just rinse and then you're done. It's a really cool concept. It has its ups and its downs, but at the same time, for the longest time, I told people, oh, that stuff is absolute junk and you don't want to use it and you don't want to push film in it. And then all of a sudden I started seeing people who were pushing film in it and who were getting great results in it. And it was just me being limited by my own failures and not wanting to push through. And that's okay. I don't need to push through an R5 monobath. I don't want to push through an R5 monobath. But for me to expect others to live up to my failures or to be confined by my failures is kind of the thing that I was kind of targeting and going after today. Obviously, there's rules, quote unquote, within, maybe we should call them principles, within photography, right? There's these different rules that are compositionally known to be true in a lot of different images. But at the same time, you learn the rules and then you start breaking outside the rules, and then you could start getting more engaging compositions. You could start getting more tense compositions. Sometimes tension within a composition is the thing that makes or breaks a photo. And just having this idea of really breaking out of the box of what other people deem to be true within photography, within creativity, within film photography and development processes and stuff like that, and really allowing ourselves to experiment. If you have it on your heart to go out there and start pushing 100 speed film to 32,000, go out there and try it, give it a shot. Who knows what's going to happen? And then you can start to base your own judgments off of your experiences, and it could start to direct your creative path. And I also know people who get incredible, incredible images because they're doing things that other people have deemed just terrible within photography. I actually got a zine in the other day. Let me see if I can. Here it is. So actually, John, you might be on here, but this is called the Tiny Plastic Box. I think it's called version 7, volume 7, but this is from John Wilkening. But this is a fantastic, fantastic book. All of Holga shots, super, super blurry, and just like some people would look at these images and think, man, those are, not saying that these are terrible images, but some people, if they're looking for technical perfection, would say, you know what, the Holga is an absolute terrible camera. It's a toy camera. Well, it's a toy camera until you start making actual projects with it, right? And you start using it as if it weren't a toy camera. And, you could start exhibiting with it. And I think this whole idea, and I'm not going to ramble on too much. I want to read some of the comments that came in on the video today, but I think the real whole concept that I really want to start tearing down is you don't need permission to start diving into creative expression. You don't need other people to say that you can or cannot do it. Sometimes it's great to go for advice and go, hey, I know that you've done this in the past. What are some tips and tricks that you've learned that I could learn from as well? Maybe, cut the gap a little bit quicker. But I am just really curious to hear a little bit more conversation on all this. So I want to read through a couple comments that came in, and then I want to dive over into the chat and see what you guys are talking about right now. But a few comments that came in. One is from Peter Goetz. It says, great idea. One of the things that I love about film photography is that it often feels like a post-apocalyptic wasteland out there, where I often find myself scavenging and utilizing whatever tools, camera, and film that I happen to come across. I have an FM2 where the mirror is cracked. The rewind crank has the tendency of falling off and the body is taped up. This is one of my favorite cameras because of what it's been through and the character that it has. I get a Mad Max kind of feel repairing and hacking and jobbing cameras back together. And then he continues later on in his comment and he says, I love the sentiment in this video. You don't need permission. And then he says, experiment and use whatever you have available. Be creative, be Mad Max. I absolutely love that. And I think that, this whole concept, I think really, hopefully, adds some of the joyful and playful aspects back into our photography to where it makes it kind of this one big adventure once again. And we get to be kind of Mad Max out there, just kind of making things work. I love it. Like Emily always calls me kind of the MacGyver of photography, because if I have a need or a problem, I'll just kind of, in my mind, I'll start cobbling up something. I shared the other day, and this isn't something mind-blowing, but when I was shooting the Kiev 6, the tape thing, I don't have any 120 around here, but there's the exposed tape that you lick and you put around it to seal it shut. It had ripped in the camera, got caught in the thing, and I needed to hold it shut and make sure that it didn't unravel. So I just took a hair tie. It was like, it didn't even require any thinking. I was like, okay, what do I got? Okay, a hair tie. And I put it around it. And I just absolutely love that idea of adventuring through photography and being kind of the Mad Max of photography. I love that. So Peter, thank you. Frank Walsh says, every hobby or activity has its rules in a community that enforces them by judgment. And everyone has its honey badgers. Now get out there and run with scissors. Again, I do think to some people it kind of feels like when you tell people it's okay to go out there and experiment, and that there is no absolute defined rules of photography. I think people do feel like it is, oh, you're sending people out there to run with scissors. But at the same time, it's photography. It's not life. It's not like you're actually running around with scissors. You're going out and creating artwork. Like, there's no life or death situation here. So there's no hard rules. I absolutely love that. Thank you, Frank. Verdo 007 says, I've noticed that there are a lot of rules in film photography that are just opinions. People say you should overexpose by X amount or underdevelop by X%, but they forget to mention how they metered the scene to begin with and what their criteria of perfectly developed negatives are. And I absolutely agree to that. I would say that oftentimes I have some negatives here. Let me find a good set of negatives. That this is a little bit more around the density of the negatives that I look for in my my work. I like nice thick negatives to where there's a lot of density to work off of, to where the shadows were typically opened up a little bit more, and then I start to crush them down in either post, as I showed on the scanning and editing video, excuse me, or in the darkroom, I'll start printing with like a filter 3, you know, and start printing in those kind of ways. So I think we tend to think that everyone wants to get the same results that we do, but then we also forget that creativity is creativity because not everyone's after the same thing. So, Verdo, I think I'm saying your handle right, Verdo007. Thank you for sharing that. Charlie, who I know is on here and who's a great friend, says, really good topic, especially for YouTube and Instagram culture. I tried plenty of film and developer combos that weren't approved, and some were awful, and some I really liked. I'm glad I tried the ones that flopped. I think sometimes rules really get confused with personal taste or preferences. Completely agree. Whether it's film developer combo to lens or kit, funny you mentioned JCH and Pancro 400. That was our topic that we talked about last week in the live stream. People gush and drool over JCH, and personally, it wasn't my thing. Pancro 400 though, and especially pushed to 800, I love it. I don't know people. I didn't know people were pushing it much. That was one that I just went for it and tried out a bunch of different combos. Great for learning. Great for learning what I liked and didn't. Absolutely love that. Thank you, Charlie. And then I'll hold these ones over. I want to jump back over into our live stream comments and see what it is that you guys are saying. Let's see here. Anthony, I see you out there doing work, buddy. Thank you so much. I gotta get caught back up. Sometimes I wish I could just drag my. I wonder if I can actually. I haven't tried this. Nope, I can't make it any larger. John says, dude, this is amazing, especially because I can type faster now. That means more things to say. Nice, I'm excited about that. Mark says, I have to head out on my commute, so I'll miss most of this live. Just wanted to say, I'll just say this about permission. People say that Rodinal and HP5 look weird. I did it anyways, and it looks just fine. Okay, adios. Thanks, buddy. It was one of the, was it, who was it that said it? I think Charlie said it. Yeah, I think sometimes rules really get confused with personal taste or preference. I think that that's one of the big key items here is people have personal tastes and preferences, which is awesome. That's part of the creative process. That's part of developing and finding your own voice within the photography process. But then once we expect everyone else to serve our creative process and in preference and taste, that's when it starts to go a little awry. John says, also, Nick, I'm actually here in private now. Usually I'm under my brand. Now I can just be a douche without worrying about my brand's reputation. Okay. Have at it. Going to bed. I don't know how to say that, but thank you. Thanks for joining in. Accidentally developed Portra 400 in HC110. It came out weird, but the images were there. Portra cartridge looks too much like Tri-X cartridge. Interesting. I've been really wanting to develop some color films in HC110. I switched over. I have been using HC110 for quite a while now, but at least the last 6 months. But did you get like underdeveloped results? From what I hear, you should. From what I hear, typically it requires a little bit more development process. And I know that it was an accident on your part, but at the same time, I would like to dive into some of that. So I'd like to hear what results you did get. And if not, then I'll just experiment. Dan says, I pushed HP5 6 stops in 35 millimeter. It was wild. One big piece of grain. Nice. In a good way, Dan, to your liking? Or, I mean, I know that you and I both are grain junkies, so I'm really curious to hear about that. Jacob says, Jahan, we still know it's you. Eric says, I ended up with 5 prints. I spent a lot of time trying to print from some Eastman XX. It was more challenging to print, but the one result I was able to get was rewarding. Its midtones looked great. Nice. I don't think I've had a couple different rolls of Eastman XX, but I think I just give it away typically because it's a slower shutter or a slower film speed than what I normally shoot. So John says, Nick, I think we're both experts in squeegee failure. I think so too. That is one thing that I will tell people that I don't suggest, just because uh, that can go awry very quickly. I think a sponge is a much better way to go. But if you want to try it anyways, then have at it. Caesar, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you in here. I've heard of photography classes teaching the technicality of things, such as precise temperatures, developers, and composition. Yeah, I'm not saying that there isn't. What I'm not saying is that there isn't any room or any need for the teaching of technical. I don't want to say perfection, because what is that even? But the technical means within, okay, this is, the suggested development time and in temperature and, all these things. It's important to learn that stuff, but at the same time, to be bound by those constraints is an interesting thing as well. So I personally, like, for my tasting, I like to push my temps up. So I'm typically around 24.5 degrees Celsius with my developing, which drops my times drastically. And I like the grain that it gives with that. And some people might not. It gives a different type of dense grain structure that some people might like, some people might not like. I really, let's see here. Clement Rebecca says, I really like this week's topic. I've never thought of it, but it felt so right. Mostly when I was shooting landscape. There's so many rules, top composition, and this got me sick and I stopped shooting. Now I feel free with film photography and enjoy shooting again. Yeah, and I do think that's kind of a point too, is when we start to feel a little bit too constrained by all the rules and all the should do's and have to do's and all these different things that get thrown out there on YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video. How many YouTube videos are there that talk about the rule of thirds, right? Oh, well, this photo was a failure because it didn't fall on the grid of the rule of thirds. Well, what if it's not supposed to? And once you start getting put into a box, it can start to feel a little too constrained. And I got into photography, and I'm very passionate about photography because it allows me to express myself. And sometimes I like to express myself not so much in the rules, but in just expressing myself, right? In the adventure, and the playing through, and the going out there. Most of my photography is me just experimenting and going. I had the whole video that I did back in the first season of 2 Minute Tuesday, where I talked about the question that I ask myself on a frequent basis is, I wonder what would happen if. And just going out there. And this week I did it with the Kiev 60 6x6 camera, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if. And I started giving myself these limitations that I do still believe in creative limitations and giving ourselves a set of constraints that we've given ourselves that can kind of direct a project. And I wasn't happy with it. I shared that on Instagram, and I started talking about, I was editing the video, which I am going to post, by the way. I'm still going to post the point of view video up because I do want to share my failures just as much as my successes, because I think it's valuable. But at the same time, I'm kind of going in a tangent once again, but it is so much about experimentation and really just getting out there and adventuring through. And as soon as the adventure stops, I'm not in photography for photography's sake. I'm not in it to geek out about gear, although I do enjoy about geeking out about gear. I'm not in it to geek out about the technicalities, but I do enjoy learning that. I have a book here called the Geometry of Art in Life, and it's all based on the Fibonacci sequence and the the golden ratio and everything like that. So I enjoy learning about that stuff because it's a tool within the toolbox. But at the same time, if I take one tool, it's like trying to build a house with a hammer. And all you're going to do is build this house with this hammer because it's the one tool and it's the right tool. And you just get out there and you just got to build that freaking house with that hammer. I'm getting a little riled up. I'm going to pee in my stop bath. Man, give it a shot. I don't know. Oh, I love this. This kind of like I've been looking forward to this all day long because this is the kind of topic that just gets me riled up. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I watch these interviews with Andre Cartier-Bresson, and he calls himself a anarchist, not in the crazy anarchist type idea, but in an anarchist, and I believe what he's talking about because he kind of always uses it in code. But what I gather from it and what I kind of get from it is he's really not one to be constrained by rules within his work, within even his life. And it's not that I'm against rules, but at the same time, I do kind of feel like I kind of move towards that end of the spectrum. Hopefully in a healthy way. Thanks for the video today. To the point, I gave myself permission to pulling Tri-X 400 to 50 ISO. Has anyone else ever pulled film here? Yeah, I'd love to hear that as well. I've never pulled film. I'm curious. There's some instances where I want to try it, but I just haven't gotten around to that. Peter says, I'm loving the simplicity of HC110. It really is a simple developer. I do enjoy HC110. HC110 is groovy. Yes, it is. Give it a shot. Unintentional pun. Yes. That's fantastic. Unintentional puns are amazing. I really want to try this as well. I pulled a roll of Tri-X to 100 on accident, and I really enjoyed the results. Nice. Jacob Murphy says, that kind of being a told no happened with my zine. Almost every person I talked to told me I couldn't make something that would fold the way that I wanted it to. Keep pushing and you'll get it. Actually, it's funny, Jacob. I was actually thinking about your zine this morning as I was kind of mentally prepping for today's live stream because I do think it's an amazing just yours. And if you go back to the zines in the community, which I do want to make another one of those coming up soon, but I shared a couple different zines within the community, and Jacob's was one of them, and it's folded up somewhere. Here it is. So if you guys haven't seen, it's based around the concept of a New York City subway map. But it's essentially a zine that literally just unfolds into a giant grid of imagery, and it's just fantastic. And this, by so many different standards of purists within the film zine or within the zine community anyways, really breaks so many different rules and really kind of challenges a lot of concepts. But that's what I love about it. That and Jacob's photography is just absolutely amazing. So I highly suggest that you guys check out Jacob Murphy. It's Jacob Murphy Photography over on Instagram, but which I do believe that Jacob still has some of these available. You guys want to pick one up. This is like one of my crown jewels in my zine collection. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I was thinking about your zine as I was thinking through this morning, because I do think that it's a great representation of what so many people would say, no, you can't really do that, or no, you shouldn't do that. But then you did it, and it freaking knocked it out of the park. I love it. Jahan says, that's like the Digital Rev Series Pro Tog cheap camera. Absolutely. Holga's my first camera ever. Loved it. Nice. Michael Kenna did a whole book on Holga. It's fantastic. Mine's around here. Oh yeah, mine's up there. I love it. It's a great camera. Some of my all-time favorite wedding photos that I shot were shot on a Holga. I've pulled it out on paid gigs before and used it on paid gigs and used it for its artistic effect. Some people would say, oh, that's not wedding photography. That's toy camera at a what? Well, unless it is. Nick, please tell me what to do. Dan, I will tell you all the things that you need to do. Dan, I really cannot get over your your icon. It's the most amazing icon that I've seen yet in the chat. Wanoy says, Anthony, that's awesome, man. I would like to see some results ASAP. I've sent my last roll to the darkroom lab in California last week. Waiting is killing me. That's the anticipation part. It is a killer. I have so much of that. All this, oh, you guys can't see it. There's a bunch of film hanging over here that I haven't even looked at yet. It's developed, but I'm like anticipating the scanning it. I really want to see him. Let's see here. Luisa says, asking for permission is the opposite of creativity. Creativity is change in essence. Permission is status quo of the establishment. Wow, that's very well said, and I very much agree. Very much agree. Let's see here. JDeb Ultra says, I scare people when I shoot or when I street shoot with the Canon T70. Man, it's loud. Good dog camera. They tilt their head every time, except you got to shoot 2 shots. First one tilts the head. That's funny. That's a really interesting way of getting a dog to respond. And yes, those are extremely loud. I had a couple of those and got rid of them because just not in my my shooting repertoire of having that loud of a camera, but really interesting nonetheless. Let's see here. Martin, which by the way, Martin, today in the mail, I got the part 2 of the series that you sent. So thank you so much for sending that. I really enjoyed it. I actually took about 5 minutes to look through the imagery before jumping on the live stream, before I got set up for it. So thank you for sending that. Martin says, okay, I have started to take some large format photographs with the intention of using the out of focus compositionally. I shot my 40th sheet yesterday and it's not going to plan. I'd be kind of curious to hear a little bit of what that looks like. I'm really curious because 40 sheets, I mean, you're in the middle of a giant process right now and really, I'm sure, testing a lot of different things and trying to figure a lot of different things out. So, Martin, if you have it in you, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. What is it that you do like about it? What is it that you don't like about it? I'd be curious to hear. Most rules are just opinions. Completely agree. JDeb Ultra says, I have learned don't over agitate. People teach way too much agitation. I also know of guys that like agitate like crazy and kind of introduce a little bit more. The thing is, like, from what I can gather, gosh, why can't I think of his name right now? I'm totally blanking on his name. Anyways, somebody did a whole video about like testing the different. Gosh, my brain just went blank. But anyways, yeah, I mean it's really kind of figuring out what it is to your taste. I think I probably agitate a little bit more vigorously and a little bit more frequently than other people. It kind of introduces some contrast as you continue to go, but to each their own on that kind of stuff. Dan Crosley says, I've been having issues with my creativity. As you may have read in my last post, I need to get into doing something I can be proud of. Dan, I hadn't read the last post, but have you kind of dove into that a little bit more? What is it that you think is really kind of challenging your creativity? I'd love to hear. My Instagram is Wanoy R. Smith. I put them on my page when I get them. Nice. Let's see here. I would like to try the new 55 for stand development when I get my first tank. Yeah, give it a shot. It's not that expensive, so I mean, it's definitely worth giving a shot. I guess if I were to give any kind of encouragement is to really watch your temperatures. I do think that that's probably the key with that kind of developer and really understanding the nature of it. Jahan says, I think I might enlarge a color negative in my next black and white darkroom session. You should. I actually really enjoy printing color negatives in the darkroom. I did some contact prints of a Portra 400 4x5 sheet for a wedding couple that I had shot a while back. Actually, you guys might be a little bit familiar just through some of my stories on Instagram, but Nick Anderson, fantastic photographer in his own right, very much in the film photography scene. But I shot all film on my part. Emily shot digital that day. But for their wedding, I shot a bunch of 4x5 stuff, a bunch of medium format 35 millimeter. But I took the 4x5 sheet of Portra and did some contact prints and absolutely loved them. It blew my mind on how well Portra actually printed as black and white. I actually didn't have much doubt because I often will convert Portra 400 over to black and white in digital like post to give kind of an extra little something to deliver. Has anyone shot film after soaking the roll in wine? I have not, but there's a, I don't know the YouTube channel off the top of my head, but there's a YouTube channel that is all about creative film development, and she'll soak. It's a gal that soaks like her film in all sorts of different things, beer and wine and lemonade and like all sorts of crazy things, Kool-Aid, I don't know, and then we'll develop it and see how it actually affects the roll. And it's really interesting when she does it with color because it will drastically shift the color makeup of the film, and you'll start to get these really wild colors. So I think that's pretty sweet. And I've heard that there's like a beer development method. Obviously, there's a coffee development method, but I'd really like to try both of those and develop my film in those. I just think it would be so cool to develop in beer, coffee, or even wine. I wonder if there's a wine, and if not, I might just try and experiment. Let's see here. Dan says, I developed Vision 500T in Ilfotec HC. I also made black and white prints with color negatives in the darkroom. Good results. Nice. Let's see here. Was reading about it this week. Red wine soaking pre-shooting and then drying for a couple weeks and then soaking after shooting the developing. Interesting. So pre-shooting and then after shooting. That's really interesting, and I'd actually love to try that. Has anyone ever shot Fuji NGH2 800? I came across an expired roll. I have not. Here, I'm going to come back over to these. I want to cover a couple more comments that we got in on the YouTube channel today, or on the YouTube video today. Ross Blasingame, I think that's how you say your name, is you don't need permission to try different things in photography. It's half the fun. You build a knowledge base of outcomes which you carry into your body of work. I completely agree, and this kind of goes off of last week's, one of the topics of last week about developing your style and finding your creative voice. And I want to really dive into that a little bit more in the future because I do think that it's more than just the visual aesthetics of our photography. I think it also goes into the creative expressions that we've tried, right? The creative means that we've tried out and failed in or that have succeeded in, and how that's determined and depicted our creative walk. But then I also believe it's something that we bring in from other aspects of life, right? Other hobbies that we have, our work previously, like our work experiences, our family experiences, all these different things I really believe build up to what our bias is in photography, which I think creative vision and our creative voice is much more of a creative bias than it is an actual voice that we find. I don't know. It is both, and I believe, and I would like to kind of wrestle through that with you guys a little bit more. But I do absolutely love that idea of you build a knowledge base of outcomes which you carry into your body of work. I completely agree. Another one that we got in was from Blowfield 76, says, one rule that I'm happily breaking is the one that says you shouldn't use slower shutter speeds than your lens focal length. I constantly use 1/15th or even 1/8 of a second speeds handheld with SLR plus 50mm combo. Of course, there's risk of motion blur, but I'm willing to take the chance to get low light images. Completely. One of my all-time favorite things to do at a wedding with the Leica is put on a 50 millimeter and then put it down to 1/15 or 1/8 and then shoot dancing photos, and you get this incredible motion blur that adds so much life to the image. Excuse me. Hopefully you guys, I just burped in my mouth. I'm so sorry about that. Um, these moments are so embarrassing on live stream. But I really love just diving into like just using those, like slow shutter speeds with a longer focal length can be a creative tool. Something to be embraced in so many different areas. Rady Para says, I think sometimes I follow the rules just to see if I like what I get. Then I start to second guess myself about experimentation. I'll ask around a bit and then experiment. It happened to me when I started using the PMK Pyro developer. I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds really interesting. Some people told me that I'd lose shadow detail if I pushed it, but I did it anyways. I ended up changing over to HD110 because I did not like the grain on pushed PMK. Anyways, you are right, we tend to look for too much permission to experiment while we are, as artists, already have full permission granted. Absolutely, I completely agree. And then Tay Damon says, got a great example from yesterday. I've been experimenting with cyanotype prints, and all the info I read said that digital negatives should be printed out at 200 to 300 DPI. I tried that, wasn't too happy with the results. Yesterday was the first sunny day in a week or two, so I decided to try a print. I prepared the negative at a 1200 DPI, the highest resolution my laser printer would do, and whilst I didn't get a good print for other reasons, the detail I was able to get compared to previously was great, and it didn't affect exposure times significantly. It's one of those things to where you just continue pushing forward and you continue trying new things to see what it is that works for you and what it is that doesn't work for you. And I love that. So thank you guys for sharing those comments over there. It's not all the comments, but we don't really have it. This would be kind of a, I don't know, a boring video if all I did was read off all the comments, but I really do appreciate you guys commenting on the video. Let's see here. Charlie says, got a jet. Have a good one, everyone. Keep exploring new developing combos. PK for down. PK for you combo geeks out there. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Combo geeks, like punch, kick. I gotcha. Dan Crosley says, I developed a roll of HP5 at 1600 at 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Nice. What was your development time on that? That's amazing. Also, now that we have 41 people on here, I do want to say, this is actually, let me take 2 seconds to, you guys know the drill. I like to kind of take these pauses and go, if you're liking the live stream, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. That shows YouTube that you guys are enjoying this and that they can push it out in front of other people. So go ahead and put that up. It's also, I've been noticing, helping these live streams to really get more into other people seeing them in the future versus them just kind of being a live stream and then falling flat and dying afterwards. So you guys' likes are a huge part about that. So thank you guys for that. And then two, I want to point out again, thank you again to Anthony, our moderator. You're doing a fantastic job as always, buddy. I appreciate seeing you in here as part of the conversation, but then seeing you in here dropping the hammer on those trollers. So thank you, buddy. And then three, I want to point out, if you're on here, I realize that I'm not offended by your comment. I really appreciate you sharing your aspect in the stream, but there was a very drastically different side of this coin that came in the comments, and I also seen that a lot of you guys responded back, and I also want to just say thank you guys for responding in a healthy way. I love looking at our community here and seeing how you guys respond to each other, and even though in some instances, stark opinions can sometimes seem as if they're attacks. They're not. That's not always the case. And you guys didn't jump in and start attacking back, or not even that it was an attack in the first place. But I just really appreciate you guys jumping in and just really being an encouragement. And I noticed that you guys were jumping in there and like uplifting each other, and just, it's an amazing thing. So thank you guys to everyone who's in the comments and just really encouraging each other. Don't think it goes overlooked. I'm always watching. Sounds really creepy, like Santa Claus. I'm always watching and I'm building my naughty and nice list. No, I'm always watching and I really do appreciate what it is that you guys are doing and engaging with in the comments. So I just wanted to take a quick little second and just give a shout out to you guys, because you guys are by far, I said it on the video that went up yesterday about the 100th episode, which actually, if you guys haven't seen the 100th episode video, in the giveaway video, I'm giving away a few different books: Robert Frank's The Americans, Dan Winter's Grey Ghost, and a few others, Eugene Atjay, Annie Leibovitz, and Daido Moriyama. Go check out that video. If you haven't submitted for the giveaway, I highly suggest that you do so. It'll go until next Sunday, where we'll actually do the giveaway. But anyways, going back to the comments, but thank you guys. You guys are an amazing community. Seen some interesting images. You could also use Coca-Cola, apparently. Yes, that'd be interesting. Nick, have you read the article by Johnny Patience about the death of the zone system? He gets amazing results by wildly over and under developing and exposing film. I haven't seen that article. If you could link it to me, if you could send it to me over on Instagram, I would love to check it out. So this sounds really cool and really up my alley. I don't get too technical on all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I love watching people geek out and try drastically different things than are what's the typical norm. And there's a lot of like zone system is king kind of thing, and to see someone who drastically goes the opposite way would be very interesting. So Miles Q, sorry to be so late, guys. No worries. We're glad that you're here. Has anyone tried red scale photography? I think it's shooting color film backwards. Interesting. I have not. That sounds extremely interesting. Peter Donovan says, the only rule I've learned and will only use is to keep the horizon straight. I don't care what anyone else thinks after that. Nice. Peter, have you, just to see, like, if you've seen, but have you looked into any of Gary Winogrand's works? I'd be really curious to hear what you think of his works. Just because he's notoriously known for not having his horizon line straight. He would argue that there is straight lines and that there is 90-degree lines within his images. They just aren't within the horizon. But at the same time, I'd really be curious to hear what it is that you think on that, just as a topic of discussion. Jahan says, when I've uploaded the HC110 story with the beer, someone warned me not to mix beer with developer. I guess the next thing I'm doing is developing with beer. Fantastic. That's funny. He just goes against the grain, Nick. That's all. Totally. And yeah, I completely appreciate that. Sean says, I don't do much pulling, but I do cut my developing time to save highlights when there's too much range in the photo. Nice. That's probably a little bit more technical than I even think about it. I didn't even know that you save highlights when you cut your developing time. Very interesting. I'm so gutted I missed out on Jacob's zine. Oh, Miles, I still have a chunk left. Hit me up on... Okay, cool. I was going to say, did he sell out? But then I seen his next comment. Giles Dooley, Ilford. Talk is so cool for changing the world. Nice. Hannah, welcome. Good seeing you in here. Caesar says, I think there's a large group of people that live by the technical things in photography. They get lost in the ideal perception of a photo and see anything other than their norm as a bad photo. I do agree with that. One of the topics, and I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this and give you kind of like a little sneak peek into possibly next week's 2 Minute Tuesday topic. We'll see how it goes, but the concept that I'm wrestling through, and I've been really kind of trying to think, because I'm hitting some topics that I really want to dive into, such as this one, such as next week's possible topic, that I think will kind of ruffle some feathers. And I'm not doing it to ruffle feathers, but at the same time, I am doing it to challenge some thought processes. And one of the things that I was thinking about, and the way that I've kind of come to understanding it in my mind that wouldn't hopefully come across as an attack on anyone, is the idea that I would say in the whole percentage that I'm going to throw out here is really arbitrary. There's no absolute percentage. There's no real way of understanding this. But I would say like 90, and I might even go as far as saying 95% of photography has nothing to do with photography in the first place. And this whole concept, and I'm really kind of wrestling through again on how to describe this within a 2-minute topic, 2 to 7 minutes. But it's this idea of photography was never created for photography in general. Photography was always created as a means of documenting and giving way to recognizing in artifacting. I don't know. Giving artifact to the things that are in front of us, right? Photography is never about, okay, I'm going to set up my camera. I don't want to say never. I do think that there are times to where technical aspects or bits and pieces of photography can become one of the natures of the photo. Something that I want to dive into is really making grain the context of a photo and going, grain is the subject matter of this photo. And I do want to dive into that kind of concept. But that's also a conceptual concept. And it's, again, kind of moving away from photography for photography's sake, but taking parts of photography and making it a concept in and of itself. But I do love this idea that 90%, again arbitrary, of photography has nothing to do with photography. It has everything to do with the life in front of the camera, the life behind the camera. It has everything to do with our life that we've lived. You know, for me, 30 years that I've lived, and the experiences that I've had, the hurts and wounds that I've had, the traumas that I've gone through, the healings that I've come across in those, excuse me, in those traumas, the passions that I've gone through. You know, I've done so many different things, from racing cars and building race cars to magic. Peter McKinnon wasn't the only photographer who also used to dabble in you know, sleight of hand magic. I did it for 5 to 6 years and absolutely loved it. And it was a big passion of mine in all these different things. And you know, I have the technical aspect of automotive, and I start thinking in a different way because of automotive. Then I start thinking in a mystery and wonder kind of way of how can I present something that gives a narrative but has a inner working, kind of like magic. And all these things start to pile together, which make the photographs that I'm shooting. And really only 5 to 10, maybe even less than that, percent is about the technicalities of photography. The gear only is the tool that gets the job done, and everything like that. So I'm really kind of wrestling through this, but I would love to hear you guys' ideas on that topic as well, because I think that that'll be a good one for us to dive into possibly next week on the 2 Minute Tuesday live stream or anything like that. So let's see here. I want to say in this live stream, I realize anytime I say anything like that or stuff like this or things like this, or Emily always gives me a hard time because these are little, I don't know, quirks that I have in my vocabulary that constantly come up, but hopefully you guys aren't too bothered by them. I'm conscious of them anytime I say them, and I'm like, oh, I said it again, anything like that. JDub Ultra says, I tried to fold a zine like that. Ended up with a origami nightmare. Well done. That's fantastic. I have developed Fuji Superia in D76, and the tonality was surprisingly good. Interesting. That's one of the things is I don't shoot a whole lot of like Superia or anything. I do on occasion, but I've been wondering if I were to do a project of using one of the ideas that I have in mind for a video is, and I shared this a little bit on last week's live stream, is this idea of, man, ooh, my voice is going away or something. Is this idea of shooting a project in a day and then developing and scanning within a weekend and putting together really kind of like within 24 hours or within 48 hours or something like that, building a zine project from start to finish. And doing it probably on like the cheapest means possible. So buying like a used roll of film from the camera shop, they sell them for $1. They have a bunch of film cameras that they buy in, and a lot of the times they'll find just old film in the camera bag, and instead of selling it as new, obviously you can't do that, they'll put it in and you can buy it for $1. So going and finding like a film camera at a thrift store for $1, then buying a roll of film for $1, and then shooting the roll of film within an hour or something like that, giving myself a set of constraints, or shooting a couple rolls of film on a specific subject, concepting a zine from start to finish, and then develop it using like a Caffeinol C, and spend $1 on instant coffee and develop it in instant coffee, and then scan it with an iPhone, and then put it together in an app on an iPhone or something like that, and really taking out a lot of the hiccups of having to have things be perfect when you're going through on a project like that, and making something from start to finish, and then putting. I knew, Garth, you were going to come in with that hashtag instant coffee. I was waiting for it. I really fed you with that one. But anyways, I love that concept. And let's see here. I lost my train of thought, and I lost my place in the chat, so I'm going to try and find it again. But anyways, I just absolutely love that concept of really taking out a lot of the hiccups within things. Okay, here we are. Let's see here. Scott says, just joined in at the end of shooting a Holga at a wedding. I found that when doing paid portrait sessions, clients love to get Instax prints on the spot. That's a big thing. We used to do back when you could get FP100C on a regular basis and not spend out the rear on it. We used to take 10 to 15 different Fuji FP100C images. I'd give them the print. I would take the negative home. In fact, I probably have some of them around here somewhere, but and then I'd just scan the negative, and it'd be in with their album when they got it and stuff like that. So that's fantastic. Instax prints are so cool. I have the Instax camera. Where is it? It's up here. The 300, and it was a gift, and I absolutely love that camera, and I wish I would shoot it more. I need to get some of the black and white Instax film, but I just never think about it. I never think to spend money on that. Anyways. John says, I got to go already. Getting late here, and I got a big day tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the conversation. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Probably already gone, but really appreciate it. Kit. Wait, is this Kit Young? Is that you, buddy? Good seeing you, man. Yes, Azrael Knight. Oh, gosh. His was the name that I couldn't think of earlier. I'm sorry, Azrael. I don't. Sometimes I'm terrible. Actually, oftentimes I'm terrible with names, and they just elude me. But Azrael Knight did the video about varying agitation and everything like that, and it's an amazing, amazing video. So I highly suggest that you guys go check it out. Trav, what's up, buddy? Says, sorry I'm late. I was developing some FP4, pushed 4 stops. Nice. Man, that's probably the furthest that I've ever heard anybody push it. I'd love to see the results on that. Jacob says, J-Deb, honestly, I thought I'd have issues when folding it, but you get the hang of one quickly. Let me know if you'd like one and I could send it your way. Nice. Jacob coming in clutch on helping the community out. I love it. Miles says, if you use Red Bull, it gives your print wings. Nice. That's so funny. Have you guys heard that Red Bull they got sued for that? There's a big lawsuit, and it was one of those things to where you could go to like a website, and if you would ever purchase like Red Bull in the past, you could put your email in there, or your address in there, and they had to send you, it's done now, but they had to send you like a bit of this payout that they had to do to the public, because Red Bull doesn't actually give you wings. It's somebody filed it as a claim as what's that called? False advertisement. So they had to pay out like this crazy amount, but really after all was said and done, each person that put in their email and address only got like $1.25 or something like that. It was funny. Martin says, believe it or not, I'm finding it hard to get things out of focus enough. In my mind, it seems quite easy, but no, it seems like my wide angle lens for composition, but that has too good of depth of field. Yeah, maybe. Do you have any longer focal lengths, like a 210 or 345 or whatever they come out as, like 475? I don't know all the proper focal lengths that move forward on those things, but maybe trying either that or maybe even trying with a neutral density filter and just opening up wide open. I'd be curious to see that. And varying your distance from subject to background. Just a couple different ideas. And you may have, I mean, you're 40 sheets in, you may have already tried all that stuff. So, Martin, I'm really, really excited to see when you do hit breakthrough on that and what it actually looks like for you. Nice. Jacob's getting some hits on the zines. Stop farting in. That would be funny. It fogs your negatives. Oh, I love your humor, buddy. So much fun. Martin says, so I have to work out how to shoot with a 210 millimeter lens and learn how to compose with that. All I know is that it is hard. I've never shot with a 210 millimeter. I have the 127, I believe, 137. I don't know, whatever it is. I do want to get a 210 for portraits. Although at the same time, I do enjoy using my 127 as a portrait lens. It's nice. Let's see here. Jacinct, what's up, buddy? Late as usual, still hi. Good seeing you, buddy. Cameron Horth, what's up, dude? Phil Collins, I'll be watching you starts playing in the background. I'm so late. Justin, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you in here. I got a feeling someone is watching me. Let's see here. 21. What's the weirdest film type that you have shot? So far, I've shot expired film from Kodak film from 1982. For me, I would say it's like this. I think it's 5363. I have some in the film fridge here, but it's a Kodak. I think it's a security cam footage film, and it's really crazy. As far as my development and everything, it goes like crazy contrast because it's so far expired, and I don't think it was developed or it was stored properly, anyways. But it's a really, really unique one. So super high contrast, but I've gotten some really cool, especially chair shots with it. High contrast just works so well with it. But I think it's from the 1970s. I want to say 1980s, something in there. But it's been pretty crazy. Joe, yo Nick, what's I made the stream, or made it to the stream. LOL. Good seeing you, buddy. Happy to have you in here. Let's see here. Justin says it's because photography is about life. It's also about expressing what it means to be a human. I like that description of it, yes. The camera and gear just give tools to the process of human expression. The tool is just that. I completely agree. I do, and I've been really diving into this concept, and it's said so many different times. I think it was Ansel Adams, and I think this quote has been attributed to so many different people in the past, but I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to give kind of a paraphrase idea of it, but it's this idea of, and actually, now to take my headphones out and plug in the phone because it's about to die. There we go. Hopefully the audio doesn't go too crazy, but the whole idea of a photo and a photo captured is just as much about the person behind the photo as it is about the thing in front of the photo, and I really do believe that. And I really do believe that a lot of our photography is very much a self-portrait in a way. It's these things like I was talking about earlier about these life experiences that we've gone through, whether good or bad, often create these set of lenses. And whether the lenses be good and bad or bad, they're really the things that we see the world through, the things that we perceive the world through. So I think our photography can be a great indicator as to what it is that we actually believe to be true about ourselves, about the world, about even eternity, right? Being a Christian, the things that I shoot, I think really kind of give way to my understanding of who I believe God to be, right? In these things of uh, just all sorts of different aspects of life really start to show up in our artwork, whether we wanted it to or not. I think we have a certain bias that we can't go around. We can't just go, oh, I'm not going to shoot through my bias today. Well, you're still seeing through your eyes. You're still processing through your thought process. You're still understanding through your experiences, whether good or bad, and things, and enjoy thinking intently on those things. I think if there's one thing that you guys have probably picked up on by now is the fact that I like to think intently on things. Vinny says, I think it's a great topic, talking about the topic that I was talking about for next week. Everyone's life is, by definition, subjective. There is no objective opinion, and you bring your subjective view to everything you do. It's an interesting thing when we realize that our entire life has been seen through our lenses, right? Our entire life, we at from birth to now have been in a way, to a certain understanding, the center of our life, right? Everything in our life kind of revolves around us, and that could be I don't want to go too far into like the spiritual aspects of that, and just the things that I would talk about on that end. But when we understand that we see things, and everything that we see, our vision is always, the center point is always our vision. I just think it's so interesting. I don't know. I like kind of diving into this stuff. So, Miles says, I'm so happy. I love Jacob's work in New York. So it's awesome that more people are getting to connect here. Yeah, I absolutely. This is fantastic. I know I'm skipping over some of those comments because it's really just you guys connecting with each other, and I'm so for that. But I absolutely love that, seeing that you guys are connecting, and really bringing it back over into Instagram. And again, going back to the beginning of our conversation today, talking about how Instagram is such a great platform for community, and really connecting much more. I love YouTube, and I love the platform that we have here and the community that we have here, but Instagram allows it to be a little bit more personal. Let's see here. Vinny says, how many projects do you like to have running at any given time, ballpark? I would say that I probably have about 8 to 10 different projects running at any given time. I personally enjoy working in that kind of way. I'm very much a sporadic. If you could see a little bit of my desk is a mess. The back here is a mess. I'm very much a messy worker because my mind is just a scattered like mind map of things. And I don't mind working in kind of some people have to have everything as tidy as possible, and I understand, and I tried my best to try and keep things as tidy as possible, but I'm also going from project to project to project, and I don't always have time to pick up from the last project. So I'm moving forward, and I like that aspect because as soon as I start to move forward on a certain project, I got a little bored and stale with the project that I was doing for documenting the inside of churches here in Grand Rapids, and these historical churches, and just started losing some steam on it. So I jumped back over to a different project, and started into that. And there will be a time, I was just driving past a church yesterday that I was like, I really want to get into that church and photograph the details of that church. And it's starting to well back up into me. So I might jump back into that project sooner than later. But I like having multiple different projects that I can jump between and go between, and be inspired on one and not inspired by the other. It keeps me constantly inspired, at least in my opinion, my lifestyle. And some of you guys might be completely different. Some of you guys might be I have to focus on one thing and bring that to completion, and then I can move on to the next thing. Is this not? Come on. I don't think my phone's charging. Last week it died on me. Actually ended up overheating. I took my thing off, my case off, so hopefully this time it doesn't overheat. I don't know if it's whatever, charging or not. So if I die, it's good seeing you. Kid says, it's me. I cooked up the name when signing in. Nice. Kit, it's great seeing you on here. Eric says, I'm out, guys. Good live stream. Good seeing you, buddy. J Dab says, I use the Instax with my Fuji X-T2 on occasion. Really makes some people happy when I'm shooting street. Oh, I bet. Being able to hand something to someone, if you ever want to disarm a situation on the street and go, oh yeah, just have either a very unique camera. Anytime I was going out with the, oh, you still can't see it, and I have it. Let's see here. With the Polaroid there, people just, they love that kind of stuff and they get so inquisitive. So even if I took their photo, they're like, oh, what kind of camera is that? They don't even care that I took their photo. Sometimes I get that with the Leica. People are like, oh, what are you taking my photo for, and what kind of camera is that? But if you have like an Instax and you could take a photo for them and just give it right there, it's so cool. Let's see here. Miles says, I did this when I was in New York and got like $10 from Red Bull. Nice. Let's see here. Garth says, have a good one, Nick. I'm going to have to go. See you, buddy. And there's always constant parallel storyline going on. Yes. I'm almost caught up on comments. Sweet. Miles says, okay, that's in comment to someone else. Justin says, absolutely. Photography expresses the way that we see the world more so than the cliche. It does so in very profound ways that reveal how we see ourselves in the universe, in humanity, and in time. It's so interesting, you know. That's what I love about creative expression is there's bits and pieces of the artist that comes out in the expression. You can't. No artist can create apart from, and maybe I shouldn't say this as an absolute blanket statement, but I do believe this to be true. No artist can create apart from depositing at least some bit and piece of themselves into whatever the project is that they're working on, and into whatever the piece is that they're creating. Even if it's a haptic, like haphazard piece or anything like that, I still think that there's a bit of the artist that goes into it. Jacob says, let me know when you're here and we go shooting. I think that was into someone else. Awesome. Gabe says, white balance looks better this week. Nice job, Nick. Yeah, I don't look jaundiced anymore. This is fantastic. It really did help to put a big light on the background. So, like I said, we don't have the dramatic lighting that I like to go with, but at the same time, I'm not overexposed in bright and shining, but then also looking like I'm yellow. Miles says, see you later, Wanoy? Janoy? I know that he told me how to say his name before. I want to thank you guys for the great time. Have an awesome evening. See you next time. Thank you. Andrew, good morning. Uneven toasts. Take care, guys. Nice chatting and learning. Fantastic. Good seeing you. Anthony says, or before I get to that one, J Deb says, my current project is what would Jesus do with a Nikon F? If I'm really curious to see what that would be. That's a cool concept. I like that. Anthony says, speaking of humanity, I'm really into Diane Arbus's work at the moment. Yeah, she does an amazing job at really diving in and capturing humanity. Same thing with Sally Mann, and I just absolutely love those photographers that really dive in and capture like the truth behind humanity, or maybe even the false truths behind humanity. Or sorry, I got a call in. Oh, I think it's putting me back up live now. I got a call in. So I had to cancel it. Anyways, if there's any last minute comments, it's getting to 6:25. I told Emily that I was going to try and end right around 6:30. So I do want to say, in case it cuts me off, because I don't know if it's recording or not, but thank you guys. I really appreciate this live stream. I've really enjoyed this live stream. I think that this is going to be one that hopefully will get pushed out into the YouTube streams to be able to inspire some other people. I think we had a fantastic conversation today. I really appreciated the comments that came in from YouTube, or from, you guys are all on YouTube, but from the video today and the comments section. But then I also really love the conversation that we had within the chat here. So if you guys could, once this is done, it should go up live within a couple minutes afterwards. Go and push this out to your streams of influence, and share this, because I think this is a conversation that a lot of people need to hear, or want to hear, or should hear, or anything like that. And then I also want to hear, like, I don't want to have these conversations only to have people agree with us or agree with me, because that's not necessarily a healthy conversation either. So I'd love to hear other people if they have, an opposite side of the story that they want to dive into. I'd like to hear that stuff as well. But I really do think that this is a great one to really share with your friends. So, and then another call for action: if you haven't gone and liked the video down below, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. This is going to tell YouTube that you guys enjoyed this content, and then once it publishes, after it's live, and actually publishes as a published video, YouTube will actually get out there and start putting it into people's streams as well. So I really do appreciate you guys' support on that. Jacob says, Anthony, Diane Arbus show at the Met was another big inspiration on the flow of my zine. Interesting. Nice. Trev says, talking about Instax, do you still need some Instax wide? My coworker gave me 2 packs that he bought on accident. It has been in my fridge, and I'm not going to use it. Yes, I would absolutely take that, and thank you. And also, Trav, while I got you on here, I'm still working on the t-shirt thing. You know what I'm talking about. I'm in conversation with them, and we're closer to getting it figured out. It's taken longer than I wanted it to, but I appreciate that. So thank you for sending it my way. I would definitely put it to good use. But then too, the t-shirt or the hoodie is being worked on. John says, thank you for doing these. Thank you. I appreciate you. Honestly, like, the live streams are some of my all-time favorite parts of just Nick Expose and this whole community that we're building. I absolutely love being able to converse with you guys on a weekly basis, and these are really highlights of my week, so I appreciate you guys. JDub Ultra says, thank you for all you do, Nick. You're awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. Justin, these conversations are seriously some of the best happening on the subject of photography today. Love every one of them. These are the kind of comments that keep me going. My intention, and I shared it on the video that went up yesterday, talking about the last 100 videos of the channel, talking about the giveaway. Once again, if you guys haven't gone and entered into the giveaway, it's on the last video. I'm giving away some amazing books. But anyway, I talked about it in there of my entire existence on social media really is not to build some giant social media following or anything like that. Although, I can leverage some of the following that I have. I hate using that word of following, but it can be leveraged, right? And it should be. You build something to be able to work it into building something even larger. But at the same time, that's not my purpose for being on these platforms. My purpose is to be here and to serve you guys, to serve the film photography community. If you guys talk to me on a one-on-one basis, one of the things that I often say, and I am totally genuine when I say it, is I'm here to serve, and I truly believe that. It's one of the reasons why I like just, having these discussions and being able to throw these concepts out there and go, look, we could talk about gear all day. That's awesome. Okay. But at the same time, I know that my work started going in different places and started getting legs when I started challenging my thought process, when I started challenging what it was that I believed to be true about my photography and the things that I started thinking about in my photography. So I want to have those conversations with you guys because, one, I grow from it, but two, most importantly, I want the community to grow because of it. I want the community to be able to come together and pool our resources, pool our thoughts, pool just our different perspectives, and really kind of push things ahead and along in this whole game, because I think we're all going to win. In the rising tide raises all ships kind of thing. We're all going to win at the end of this game because of these kind of conversations. So thank you guys. I don't say it lightly. I do appreciate you guys being a part of these. Daniel says, "Hi Nick. Today I went to Tel Aviv to have my Rolleiflex fixed. I bought the book on photography by Suzanne Sontag, 1977, and spent hours shooting with my Ricoh GR2. What a wonderful life! Nice. I actually have the on photography book over here. It's a fantastic book. Great thinkings. It's a dense read. It can really kind of take some time to get through, but I really enjoy it. And I don't know if I'm thinking back properly. I don't actually think that I ever made it all the way through the book. I think I got about halfway. I should go back and revisit it. Peter, did you change your name to Pete, didn't you? It was just Peter a little bit ago, right? But Pete Donovan says, Nick, I will DM you on Instagram about what I think about Winogrand's work. Thanks for the recommendation. Great TMT. Awesome. Yeah, I honestly do look forward to hearing that. Winogrand's work was one of those works that I kind of had to really open up to. It was one of the ones that it kind of took me spending a little bit more time with his work to really understand it, to really get it. But now I look at it and I think that there's so much beauty and poetry in it that I don't know. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Jacob says, great live stream today. Happy I got to stay for the whole thing. I'm happy you got to stay for the whole thing too, buddy. Miles says, Tuesday nights are one of my favorite nights of the week. I appreciate that. Assuming you're talking about these live streams, maybe you're just talking about in general. I guess I shouldn't be quick to assume that you're just talking about these things. Jacob says, guys, seriously try and get that Dan Winters book. It's one of the best books in my collection. So what he's talking about is in the giveaway, in the video before the 2 Minute Tuesday video, is The Gray Ghost. It's fantastic. Dan Winters covers New York and covers specific icons of New York. And really sequences it in a beautiful way. I don't say it lightly when I say it's a masterpiece. And actually, Jacob, when I stayed at his place, this is the first place that I actually seen the book. And I ordered the book while I was still at Jacob's place over Christmas, and I got it in and immediately had this thing and this realization of I need to give this book away because it's that impactful. So I actually just bought another copy of it and it's on its way into me now. But fantastic book. Saxon Isles says, oh boy, I'm late. What did I miss? Well, you missed a lot. It will be up for replay, so I encourage you to go back and watch it after all is said and done. We forgive you, Pete. That's funny. Let's see here. Definitely about the live stream. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. I'm also glad I made it this week. See you next week, hopefully. Yes, I look forward to next week's topic and next week's live stream. Hopefully you can make it on there. I also sent you the article about the zone system. Fits nicely with this week's theme. And then Andrew says, before we all go, I hope we can share our Instagram handles here. Yes, please do. I'll stay on for another like 2 to 3 minutes. That way you guys can share your Instagram handles and start screenshotting and getting those Instagram handles and start connecting with people on the community. So Jacob says, still can't believe I got that book for $20 at Strand. Nice. And actually, Jacob, I'm going to throw this out here because I don't want to forget about it. If you haven't gone and got it for yourself, I really want that Bresson book, The Decisive Moment. If you could go and get that from that shop for me, I will send you the money for it. If you haven't picked it up for yourself already, I really want to get that one in my collection. And I've been on the prowl for it for a while. So, yes. Thank you guys. Once again, I want to give a huge thank you to Anthony, our moderator. Killed it once again today. I seen you in there catching those comments as they came in. Sometimes we get some trollers. Sometimes we get some hurt people out there trying to hurt people. And I appreciate you stepping up once again to really make it just a healthy environment, like I said. Dude, remember the name of the store, and I will. I'll look it up. I'll send it to you, and yes. So once again, I'm gonna give one more shout out to. I know that I was just talking about Anthony, but I kind of cut short. So it's at raw_film_photography. Go check him out on Instagram and go give him a thumbs up and a thank you for being a fantastic moderator. Go over there and shoot him a message and just go, bro, you killed it. And I think he's going to appreciate that. And I'm going to appreciate that you guys do that. So I'm gonna give a couple more seconds here for you guys to share your handles. Once again, if you haven't done so, throw a thumbs up on the video. This will help YouTube push it out there. I've said it multiple times already. Hopefully that doesn't get too salesy. Does that feel too requested by the community? And I can't do that on the current income that I have. So a couple people have suggested to me by now, but one person in particular that Sean Bresney actually that was on here earlier. I don't know if you're still on here. That I really respect and just admire his work as well, but suggesting that I do some, what did I say? I forget what it's called. Some workshops. Yes, so if you think that a workshop for me would be a good idea, or if you think that I'm just full of myself and that it shouldn't be done, I'd love to hear those comments and go over and let me know over on Instagram. Shoot me a message. I'd like to sell presets. I probably won't be selling presets anytime soon. That's funny. But anyways, I think everyone's done sharing their Instagram handle on here. If you haven't done so, go in there, screenshot those, and then go and connect with the rest of the community. But thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video, on the next live stream. I'm going to go help Emily in her studio, or actually she's at a gallery setting up a piece right now, and I'm going to go help her set it up. So thank you guys. I love you guys. I will see you guys on the next live stream. And zine building workshops, I have thought about that one. If you guys think that would be a good idea, let me know. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys soon. I love you guys. Peace.